Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. Today I am very excited to have Jim Sterne joining us. Jim, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so Jim, you're a speaker, consultant, an author of a whole bunch of books on advertising, marketing, analytics, and more. You're the founder of the Marketing Analytics Summit, co-founder of the Digital Analytics Association, creator of the Analytics Cohorts Mutual Mentorship Program, as well as your own company. And you've worked with all kinds of well-known organizations like AT&T, Pfizer, IBM, Verizon, Wells Fargo, and a whole bunch of others. And I really want to get people I want to explore with you about how people can kind of leverage marketing analytics to grow and scale their business and how you've done that with your clients and done that in your own business. But before we go there, let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started before you got into the world of consulting and the world of analytics? What was your education like? What were you doing before you started the business?
Let's see. My college degree was Shakespeare. So, the numbers, the analytics, of course.
Yes.
English literature major, focused on Shakespeare. First job out of school was selling Apple IIe's out of a retail store. I answered an ad that said no experience necessary, and I qualified.
Right.
So I said, don't know much about computers, but I think they're awesome. And I've never sold anything before, but these are so exciting. I think people should buy them. And the guy said, okay, sit over in the corner for 2 weeks and read the manual. And I will pay you for 2 weeks, but don't talk to anybody. At the end of 2 weeks, this guy came into the store and I was alone, and he came over and asked me a bunch of questions about the computer, and I answered them as best I could. And he said, well, I'm thinking about using it for accounting. Oh, well, there's accounting software packages up there, and I'm afraid I'm new. I don't know anything about them. And he hollered into the back room and said, yeah, you should hire this guy. That was the test.
And so was that an actual test, or that was a real customer?
That was it was a friend of the owner who was there to drill me and put me on the spot.
Nice.
And I passed the test. So I went from there to selling business computers to companies that had never owned one before. So my background is explaining brand new technology to people. I got into technology sales and marketing, sold software development tools. And then when I saw the Mosaic, the first web browser in 1993, I said, oh, wait, that changes all of sales and marketing.
Right.
And ran out to find people who could tell me best practice, what's the best way to go about using these tools, and nobody had any answers. And they started asking me questions. So I started writing books. And that's how I fell into it.
So I want to go back to that time when you were in the Apple store, you're reading the manual for 2 weeks. Is there anything from that experience that still sticks with you today that you feel like because that kind of set you on the trajectory to where you are today? Is there anything in how you studied, how you approached it, how you thought about learning something new that you think maybe others miss, or you think really contributed to getting you on the path of where you are today?
I think that the big aha for me was that the computers were awesome. I mean, they are awesome. They do, you write programs and they do exactly what you tell them to do, period. There's no person or animal or plant that will do that, and a computer will. So that's exciting. You can control it completely. But then comes the time when somebody says, well, what would I use it for? Oh, well, or what do you want to use it for? And now we have a conversation. So what is the practical application of this new technology? That's all that matters. So I want to use this computer for my business. I want to use the World Wide Web to sell things. I want to use marketing analytics to help me get better at my marketing. I want to use artificial intelligence. What does it mean? How does it work? Where should I use it? That's where I find the most interest, is understanding the technology well enough to describe the practical applications. In fact, that's my latest book, is Artificial Intelligence in Marketing, Practical Applications.
Right. So you went down this path. You started off studying this documentation for manual for 2 weeks. You then had lots of conversations. You moved from selling kind of consumer computers to business computers. And then you said you started to actually see that this browser Mosaic came out. This was going to change things. And what was going on inside of you that actually made you want to further explore that and start to, reach out to people who might know what the future would look like? Why not just go, okay, yeah, this is a new technology, and just kind of keep doing what you were doing at that time? What was going on in your mind that really, pushed you forward, like in that direction and kind of down that quest?
Every conversation I had about the internet was creative. It wasn't, this is how it works. It was, well, if it works like this and you can do this and this, then you should also be able to do that. And people would go, yeah, that's a good idea. Every single conversation for 5 years. Now,
Right.
Why did I not create PayPal or Google or fill in the blank? Because it was just so much fun discovering new stuff and then sharing it. It turns out I love teaching. So
Right.
being a university professor is a type of teaching, very academic, research-oriented, pedantic by definition. Business education is on the conference stage with the spotlight in a room full of people asking for your business card. That's a lot more fun, and it turns out to be very lucrative.
Right. So, okay, so you had this kind of the idea, you got excited that you wanted to move towards the future to better understand what might be coming down the road. Were you a well-known name? Were you established at that point? Or how did you just decide to go out and, write books all of a sudden?
I wanted to read one. So there wasn't one.
There wasn't one, right?
So I went to a conference called Internet World, and there were 400 people there and an exhibit hall with about 20 exhibitors in the front. And I went to every booth. What do you sell? What have you got? What are you doing? The very first booth was John Wiley and Sons. Said, and it was books on how to write HTML and online security and. Where's your book on marketing online? Oh yeah, no, there's a booth over there where there's a publisher that has a Mary Cronin book called Doing Business on the Internet. Yeah, I saw that. There's only one chapter on marketing. Where's the whole book? Well, what would be on that book? Well, it would talk about this and this and this and this. And the guy said, well, do you think you could write that? And I said, yeah. I was a Shakespeare major. Sure, I can write.
Yeah.
And he gave me an outline for a proposal, which is essentially a marketing plan for a book that you use to convince the publisher to give you money to write a book. And that was book number 1 of 12. And now, I went to the...
Just to jump in, sorry, Jim, on that point. So you have no formal business writing, book publishing experience.
Zero.
You are by definition not a marketer. You have not run marketing at an organization. You were, or were you?
I did, but writ very small. So largest company I ever worked for was 100 people. I was the marketing department. So I did the trade show booth and the direct mail and the brochure and blah, blah, blah.
So you had some practical experience in the world of marketing.
Yeah.
You were not at that point an established name, but you had you had the kind of I guess the excitement, the motivation to do something about it. So like really what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people have ideas, but they don't move forward with them because they find reasons and excuses of all the things that might hold them back. And to me, it seems like in that situation, you could have easily gone like, yeah, there's some cool stuff coming probably down in the future. Like I'll just read about it. I'll try and, stay on top of it. And, nothing really exists. Okay. Like it just gone back to doing what you were doing, but you actually took action. You moved forward, you explored it. You could have failed by asking some of those questions, quote unquote, failed, right? And found that things didn't work out, but that actually set you on a whole new path.
It was the combination of my background. So I was in sales and marketing, sold computers, did very well there, was in marketing of software development tools. How do you ask engineers about their software and understand it well enough so you can explain it to other engineers who might buy it? That was me. So I had that. Part of that was understanding networking and systems. Good. So I get marketing, I get systems, and here is a system that will change marketing. And I can explain it to people. This is exciting. This is a whole new world.
Right.
and nobody's doing it right. That was the thing that drove me nuts. I think that it's Tom Peters who said nothing happens until somebody gets pissed off. I was pissed off. I was going to websites and they were so slow and stupid and so at that same Internet World Conference, I went to the organizer and said, hey, you've got all of this stuff on how to set up a server and how to blah, blah, blah technology. Where's the thing? Where's the presentation about doing business, about marketing? And she said, what would that presentation have in it? Oh, well, this. Do you think you could give that presentation? And so that's how I started on as a public speaker. I had given presentation at user group meetings, but this was like out in public saying, no, really, the internet's awesome. Please, your websites suck. Here's some examples. Here is Betty Crocker. It's not up yet. It's 1996, and Betty Crocker doesn't have a website. That's embarrassing to General Mills. Here's Hewlett Packard. They're making these horrible mistakes. I'm trying to click here, here, and here. And I would do it in a way that would get a laugh out of the audience. And invariably, people would come up and say, I've been telling my boss the same thing for months. Will you come to my company? We will pay you to come to, oh yeah, I can do that.
I love how, like, this is such a great demonstration of asking questions, right? Where's the book? Where's the presentation? Where's the booth? Whatever. And from that, when somebody kind of gives you an opening, you're prepared. Maybe you weren't actually prepared, and in terms of what the talking points were, but you had enough knowledge on that topic to be able to open up their eyes and mention something that they could clearly connect to value for their organization or for their community or their members. So, okay, so you get the book deal, you write the book. What happens when the first book kind of, hits the bookshelves?
My father is very proud of me.
Right. Number one, check that box. Wonderful. Yes.
That was it.
Okay. So no big business, nobody knocking down your door. Nope. How did that feel to you? What were you expecting, Jim, with that first book?
That was exactly what I was expecting. I was told from the beginning that if you write a business book, it is an extremely thick business card. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Right.
You are not nobody's going to turn it into a movie. Nobody's going to stop you in an airport and ask for an autograph. It ain't going to happen. So fine. I needed to write the book so that I could have my say from start to finish without being interrupted.
Right. And so now you have the book. Mm-hmm. What do you do with it? Right. So nobody's knocking on your door. You're expecting, as you said, that you're going to be the one that's going to need to go out and actually promote this thing. Mm-hmm. Walk us through, what steps did you take? What happened next?
Public speaking, get on stage.
Okay.
Instead of I'm a out of work independent consultant somewhere in the middle of California who has an idea to give a presentation, I am now author of. And not a self-published by my brother-in-law who has a printing press. John Wiley & Sons published my book. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the professor at Stanford asked me to present there, and the professor at Harvard asked me to present there to their class. It's like, great. Now I have enough creds that somebody will say, okay, we're interested in having you present at our conference. Mm. Do you have any example material?
Right.
So I did some video, which was really difficult because this was before YouTube and before webcams and any of that. And people said, oh, he can stand on stage and speak a sentence without stumbling over his own toes. And okay, we'll have him on our stage. That's where my business clients came from. Right. And that's where additional writing material came from. And the more you do, the more you know. And then came blogging. Mm. And then I put on my own conference.
How much of the work that you did in those kind of early, during that early period when the book just came out, how much of those presentations that you were doing at Stanford, different places, what percentage of that was for free and what percentage of it was paid in the early stages of promoting the book?
75% was free.
Right.
And I would do everything in my power to get them to pay for travel. If you will pay a plane ticket and hotel room, I will buy my own lunch just so I can get on stage in front of people, because that was my marketing. That's where my clients came from.
How did you know that before you actually started doing it? So I'm asking this because a lot of people, especially consultants, tend to be conservative, tend to look at an investment as something that you want to hold back doing for as long as you possibly can, see what you can do, before you put money into something. But you had this mindset where you were willing to essentially give away, quote unquote, your time or your expertise or your value because you saw something that could come from it. How did you see that? How are you prepared for that? Was that a hard thing for you to do, to essentially kind of give, quote unquote, give away your time?
Easiest thing in the world. I don't know if I mentioned I started in sales and marketing. So as a salesperson, you go out and sell.
Right.
You don't sit there and wonder why the world is not coming to you. You go make it happen. But it has a lot to do with a presentation I saw. Guy by the name of Eric Ward was the first one to stand up and say, the most important thing to search engines, and this is before Google, is not whether you get exactly the right words, but it's how many people have links pointing into your website. So I can help you build links. And this was a new idea. He stood up, and instead of having PowerPoint, he had an HTML page that had line of exactly how he did his consulting. First, we do this and this and this. And that was a link off to a tool that I use. And that's how I use that tool. And I do this, and then a link off to that tool, and a link off to that and that. And you don't have to take notes because all of this is available on my website at this URL. He described his entire consulting practice. He gave away exactly how he did it with links to the tools and just gave it away. And I thought, that's the most ridiculous. And he was flooded with people trying to get his business card.
And just for everyone, why was that? Why do you believe he was flooded with business, even though he's giving away all of his expertise?
Because it was so clear that he understood how to do it and he had done it. And he proved to everybody how much work it actually was.
Right.
And I've got more money than time. I will pay you to do that for me.
Right. So you're getting now on stages, you're building up your reputation, your authority, your expertise. How did you then start to transition that into actual consulting engagements? Were you on stage saying, hey, like, here's where to contact me? Like, walk us through what that looked like from getting up on stage, giving your presentation to actually turning that into business.
Crucial point was never push it, never, so the very bottom line of all of my slides is my email address. And that was my promotion. The rest was, this is what's wrong with this website. This is how this website could be better. Here's how you can measure this in order to measure whether it's better. Here's how you can test to see which way will be better. And if you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards, but I have to get out of the way of the next speaker. Thank you very much for your attention. People would come up and give me business cards.
Right. Yeah, I love it. What of this whole process in terms of, giving away, quote unquote, giving away your time, doing free presentations, not being overtly salesy, but just kind of having your contact information. How much of this whole process do you think still works today?
I think it still works great. I don't have a YouTube channel or a following on TikTok. I haven't played with Clubhouse for months and months. So I may not be the most current person out there, but I did manage to make myself a large fish in a very small pond when I started my own conference.
Right.
So I was an internet marketing strategy consultant back when people said, what is that? Describe the internet to me. Then by the year 2000, people said, oh, internet marketing strategy consultant. That means you're unemployed. I'm so sorry. Okay, I need a narrower specialty. And by that point, web analytics had started, and I got really excited about it. It's not just my opinion that your website sucks. We can measure it,
right,
and improve it.
Yeah.
So okay, where do I go? Well, there were vendors selling tools that had user group meetings. So I did some keynotes at those, and then said, this is crazy. This needs to be its own conference. So I put on my own marketing analytics summit in 2002, and 50 people showed up. And 30 of them were vendors. 10 of them were consultants, and 10 of them were actual people who were actually trying to solve the problem. But it was instant recognition of, oh, these are my people. They had never met each other before. There was nobody inside their company who understood what they were talking about. They suddenly had community out of thin air. And that conference is now 20 years old. It's cranking right along. And that my web metrics book came out that year, and the conference came out. And a year later, the audience said, not enough, we need a professional association. So now the Digital Analytics Association is 18 years old and 5,000 members and going strong.
I love how, we've had a very similar path in the sense that based on what our community asked for, we also developed. So when we started Consulting Success, we were just sharing free content online for many years. And people said, hey, like, do you have a course on how you can become a successful consultant? We said, no, but we'll create one. And then after that, I was, okay, this is great. My business is growing. Is there a way to like work with you? Do you have a coaching program? No, we don't, but we'll create one. So I love that you're taking that demand from the marketplace and then building it. When you talk about creating a conference, I mean, you'll often hear people say that that's just like a heck of a lot of work, and it can be very stressful. And like, what was the experience like for you of actually creating a conference? And when would you not recommend that people create a conference? Like, is that a viable marketing strategy today? Is that
yes?
Kind of, okay.
Well, let's with a COVID override on it. Yeah. It's incredibly difficult now because all of my sponsors are putting on their own virtual events. Fair enough. They need to promote themselves. Everybody's doing a webinar every day. That's fine. But boy, human beings like to gather. Mm-hmm. And as vaccinations increase and Omicron stops being a problem soon, please, we are going to come back together in droves because we are social animals.
Right.
It is always a good idea to create a gathering of humans around a topic that is underserved. Mm-hmm. So somebody says, we're going to do a conference on sewing machines. Oh, okay. Well, a lot of people are doing that. Well, we're going to do a conference on left-handed sewing machines. Oh, that's interesting. We're going to do a conference on left-handed Japanese sewing machines. Oh man, that's my jam. Sign me up.
Yeah.
And always creating the community around something very specific, because then they want to talk to each other about it.
I really love that. I mean, could you speak a little bit more to that example or just your own experience of really narrowing in and specializing? Because so many people, even when you have a successful consulting business, you end up with baggage, you end up with waste. You'll find that as you start to analyze, and you'll know this right from analytics, but you look at where's the majority of your sales coming from, your traffic coming from, and it's like the 80-20 principle in full effect, where a small kind of minority of whatever is contributing the majority of the output or the result. People are often, though, very scared to narrow in. How do you think about, how did you get to that point where, you feel so strongly that you're not just going to have a conference for sewing machines, but a conference for left-handed Japanese sewing machines? A lot of people look at that and go like, yeah, but you're going to leave out so many potential people. Just talk to me a little bit more about where that conviction comes from.
It comes from the advent of the internet. If I'm a consultant in Santa Barbara, California, with a population of 80,000 people, I have to kind of be all things to all people because there's only so many people. But now I have the internet and I can reach out to everybody. Mm-hmm. And if I say, I do big data analytics, it's like, well, yeah, so does everybody. It's right. Like, oh, well, I do marketing analytics. Oh, well, that's, a lot of people do. I do internet, online marketing, digital analytics, specifically for the aircraft industry. It's like, well, there's only 3 people who need me, but oh boy, they're going to know who I am because I'm going to pop to the top of Google every 10 minutes for them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's a really great example. So I'm interested, in your specific situation and kind of experience, Jim, because you've written many books. How many is it? 12 books? 13? 12 books. 12. Okay, so 12 books. You cover a lot of different areas of marketing, online, analytics, these different pieces. So you do have a pretty wide umbrella in terms of coverage. Mm-hmm. How have you taken that kind of fairly broad kind of areas or different areas of expertise and narrow them in to build a business around that? Like what's been your approach to taking all this and deciding what to monetize and what not to?
So the subject is digital analytics. Now, where do people need help within digital analytics?
Mm.
And my niche is evangelism. So I think of it as the consulting pyramid. At the peak, of course, I'm going to put myself at the top. At the peak of the pyramid is the guy who says, hey, everybody, look over here. This is important. You should pay attention. And so a company will have me come in and work with a couple of hundred of their marketing people to understand what is the internet, 1995, what is digital analytics, 2005, and what is artificial intelligence, 2021.
Right.
And this is a marketing team. We don't know about data science. Explain what it is and why and how much should we invest and where do we go and who's going to eat our lunch if we don't do it, and just get us all looking in the same direction. And then at the end of it, they say, okay, we get it. Now we need a strategy. We need help putting together a plan. And I go, oh, yeah, there's a bunch of other people who do that really well. Here's my invoice. Let me know when you hit some trouble spots and I'll come in and audit what you're up to. But actually creating a plan for you in your industry at this point in time, there are 6 people over here who are members of the Digital Analytics Association who are really good at that. Gotcha. And then the next group will come in and implement the plan. And the next group will come in and be the arms and legs who will turn the cranks and make the analytics happen.
Right. So you've been now consulting, speaking for many years, right? Decades. When you look back, the benefit of hindsight, what is an experience, a lesson, maybe it's a principle, an approach that, you know, if you think about kind of the way that you approached it and the way that you think now, knowing what you know, maybe there was a better way, or maybe it's something that you wish you would have done earlier or done differently. What stands out to you as just feeling like, yeah, I could have seen success even faster or got to a different level if I would have done this differently? Is there anything that kind of resonates with you as you think about that?
Depends on how you define success.
Well, tell me about that. So how do you define success?
I am master of my fate. I get to travel the world. I talk to some of the most interesting people on the planet. I am constantly learning new stuff. And if at any time you put a contract to my head and force me to write a book, okay, there's another one. I can write you another one.
Right.
It is a fascinating lifestyle. Now, if success is building a large company and selling it at a huge multiplier, I never had that impulse, nor did I ever have the examples of people who I never worked for a boss I respected, which is why I've been working for myself for 40 years.
Right. So you've operated essentially as a solo consultant, author, speaker. Do you ever have the desire at all to build a team, even a small one around you?
I have a small team.
Okay.
I built this Marketing Analytics Summit conference, and eventually needed help. Right. And found somebody who had done lots of conferences for a long time, became my operational and then chief executive. While I'm the subject matter expert, he's the guy who knows how to put a conference together. So that company, which is called Rising Media, now produces 8 or 10 conferences, and mine happens to be one of them. So yeah, there's a team of people who, like, I come up with the agenda, they build the website, they worry about the registration, they make sure that we've got a sales team that makes sure that the sponsors are happy, and I'm just the the pretty face.
Is there anything that you struggle with as a solo consultant, where a lot of your day-to-day is just you? Is there any struggles, anything that kind of you feel you haven't yet overcome, or you're trying to overcome it?
Prioritization.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
I need at least 2 more days every week. There's too many things to do that I want to do. I'm careful at not over promising, but boy, there's 2 times of the year, and this is pre-COVID, because since then it's been nonstop. There are 2 times a year, in the middle of the summer when Europe goes on vacation. Yeah. And right now we're creeping up on Christmas and things quiet down. And I get to be creative. I get to invent and think deep thoughts and write and dream up new stuff and new partnerships. Last couple of years, haven't had a chance to do that. It is just deliver, deliver, deliver. I'm a horse in the traces. I'm enjoying the race, but that chance to kick back, I just don't schedule that for myself as much as I should.
Is there a lesson in there, or, like, knowing what you know now and looking forward, is there anything that you are working towards changing in terms of your habits or your support or your structures or your systems to help you to get better results?
I have a yellow sticky right next to the camera that says "say no more often."
Right. Yeah. We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
You're an expert in the area of web analytics. And I'm very interested in this topic because a lot of people will hear analytics. And if you run, let's say you're a solo consultant or you're a small consulting firm, my question to you, Jim, is how important is analytics? Like at what point should a consultant actually care about analytics and looking at their data from their website? Like, how many people should they have coming to their website? How many clients should they have? Like, what are the metrics that somebody should actually go, oh yeah, I should start paying attention to this? And when should they not pay attention to it?
It's a matter of volume. I have, I don't know, 100 people a day come to my website. That is insufficient amount of data to be meaningful. It is the curse of small numbers.
Right.
Because if 10 more people came to my website, oh my God, it increased by 10%, it's meaningless.
Right.
So if you are an individual, then what you care about is how many people are looking at your posts on LinkedIn, how many people are retweeting what you think is important, how often do people call and ask for help. That's stuff that you just know. You don't need analytics. You don't need a dashboard for that.
Got you. And where have you seen the shift? Like, is there a shift right now when it comes to marketing your services, other consulting firms that you know, or other professional services? Is there any big opportunities right now that maybe, COVID just really accelerated? I mean, people know in terms of more online presentations and workshops and virtual roundtables or things of that nature. But is there anything else that you feel like right now, today, is 2021 into 2022 is a big opportunity for somebody who sells expertise?
I'm trying to decide if this is just because I'm actually an old fart, but I think there are some basics that never change, and the other stuff is shiny new object. So I made fun of Clubhouse earlier. Well, let's make fun of the metaverse now.
Right.
If I were to provide my consulting in a 3D headset environment, that would be a curiosity and it would draw attention, but it would add no value. There's nothing I can do in a fake 3D world that I cannot do on Zoom with a whiteboard that I can't do in person. So somebody's got, I mean, when I first saw Twitter, I thought, what's the point? What, were you kidding me? And then it became a major way that information reaches me because I follow a very few number of people. I keep it under 75 and they bubble up to the surface the stuff I'm interested in.
Right.
So that's incredibly valuable. I use Facebook. Yeah, I know. I use Facebook only for friends and family. I don't do business on Facebook. That's not for me. As a B2B person, Facebook is not my place to play. LinkedIn, right. Oh yeah, no, LinkedIn is a huge opportunity. I will post on LinkedIn. I will write articles for LinkedIn because I think that the fundamental underlying value thing is produce, produce, produce. Tell people what you believe, what you think, what you're capable of. Explain it to them. And if they go, I agree, and I can do all of that myself, you provided value. If they say, I agree, but I can't do it myself, you've gained a client.
Right.
If they say, I disagree, then either, great, you didn't have to waste your time with them, or they start having a conversation with you and you learn things.
Yeah. Shifting into the future for a moment, because your most recent work, right, is about AI and marketing and kind of where we might be going. I'd love to kind of gain your insight and perspective as to what does the future look like? What do you feel business owners, entrepreneurs, consultants, both for their own businesses as well as maybe for their clients, what stands out right now? Where are the big opportunities, or what should people be watching or studying so that they can make the most of what's to come?
People should be paying attention to what AI can do and not paying attention to science fiction, except for entertainment.
Right.
So for example, a consultancy that when the recommendation is publish as much as you can, should look at the tools that are helping people write articles. There are now natural language processing and generation tools. You give it a sentence or even just a handful of keywords, and it will write 7 paragraphs for you, which you have to edit. It's not Shakespeare, but it's better than an intern without any industry knowledge, because the AI is out there looking at everything else that's been published and coming up with something fresh that you can then edit, and you can write 10 times faster.
Right.
So that's valuable even to a solo practitioner.
How do you feel about that? I mean, when you are the one selling your expertise, and I don't mean you specifically, Jim, but just in general, a consultant, they monetize their expertise. If you're using a tool like the one you're talking about, and I'm familiar of some of these out there, the content itself is not your content. It's created by AI, a bot, whatever you want to call it. How do you feel about that in terms of being able to create intellectual property when that intellectual property isn't really yours? I mean, of course, you could edit it completely to the point where it is then going to be unique and yours. But when you can just push a button and all of a sudden you can have an article or a piece of content that you really didn't play much role in terms of even the strategy around it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and perspective on that, because maybe that might be holding some people back, or just, what are your thoughts around that future?
There is a digital analytics expert and digital transformation guy that I depend on by the name of John Lovett. And he got his degree in photography. And he had to fight for an extra 6 months to get his degree because the professor did not think that digital photography was a thing. It's not real.
Right.
So let's talk about creativity. If the machine writes an article for you and it is original, it's not plagiarizing, it's taking concepts and bringing them together, and you review that and you say, yes, that is how I feel about this, and yes, that is a valuable piece, and yes, I will put my name on it. You created it. You used a tool. Oh, you use spell check. That's not fair. No, you used a tool. If it doesn't make sense and you have to edit the bejeepers out of it to make it make sense, you created an article.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've ever tried having, I get hit all the time. We'll write blog posts for you. Only $50, and we'll write, and they're horrible.
Right.
It's humans trying to pretend that they're smart. And if you're a subject matter expert, you can tell this is crap. But the AI stuff, it comes back crap, and you say, well, actually, this is wrong, and this is the proper phrase, go do it again. You are using a tool to create your own article.
Yeah, great perspective. What else? So creation of written content is one thing that AI is already ushering in, because there's already opportunities to do this right now. What else stands out? Where else do you see opportunities?
Well, for consultants who are consulting to larger companies, the larger companies are using these tools for targeting advertising. So are we putting the right message in front of the right person at the right time? We're seeing the ability to, well, you've seen deep fakes. So let's take a personality and have them say, there's this really great steakhouse in town and you should go visit it. Its name is, and then it goes through and it finds all the names of steakhouses. And that celebrity is now recommending 1,000 different steakhouses. That's AI. So what if I said, this is the best book that you, Michael, should read.
Right.
And I do that for everybody on LinkedIn. I've now personalized. In fact, I got one video last week where a guy said, you know, your consultancy is just the kind of place that I like to help. And I just wanted to say, and he holds up this paddle and it says, "Hi, Jim" on it. And it's extremely clear that the paddle is blank, but it just grabbed my profile and put "Hi, first name."
Right. How did you feel
my
about
attention?
that? Yeah. Like, how do you feel about that as the receiver of that attempt where you clearly know it is not being personalized, but it is different?
Mm-hmm.
What was your kind of initial reaction?
Oh, I thought it was adorable. It was cute. And I'm not interested in hiring that guy to do anything for me, but it was a fun example.
Right. Got it. Jim, before we wrap up, a couple more questions here for you. You have a lot going on, from writing books, running an association, conference, consulting. When you look at your habits, your principles, your practices, what stands out to you? What do you kind of feel as like contributes most to your superpower that you're doing on a regular basis? Anything that is part of your day-to-day or just a regular kind of basis?
I'm going to change that question a little bit. Jim, what are you a sucker for?
Okay, let's do it.
Number one, travel. So I get an email out of the blue that says, "We'd like you to come to Zagreb, Croatia to do a conference." Like, I've never been there, sign me up.
Right.
That's one. Number two, and this I kind of knew, but didn't really know formally. I'm a mentor. I love helping people. It is why I created Analytics Cohorts, which is a mutual mentorship gathering, small gathering, kind of a master class, meets twice a month for 6 months. What are you working on? What are you trying to get to? How are you getting there? How do you like that job? What do you want help with? Maybe we have some experience. That kind of conversation, which is why I love conferences. And COVID, it's 2 years now, we haven't been able to rub shoulders. So let's try to do that online. And from that, some of the people in my analytics cohort said, "Well, I need more. Will you be a private mentor?" And that is just so rewarding. I have always had the ego to think I could help people, but now I have the age and the experience that I actually can say, "Hey, you're interested in the music industry and you want to do analytics? I know the head of Amazon Music Analytics. Maybe you should talk to her. Wait, let me just send you an email, introduce you." Right. That's fun. That just floats my boat.
So, of course, we have your books, 12 of them, that people can dive into and learn more about all these areas that you cover. But in the last 6 months or so, what's one book, could be fiction or nonfiction, that you really feels like expanded your thinking?
So you interviewed Felix Velarde.
I did, yes.
Felix is a friend of mine, met through a social responsibility project, and he told me about how he's doing this consulting. And I said, "You need to write the book and have other people learn how to do it." And he said, "Well, what do you think about this manuscript?" And I sent back an edited version, and he said, "Would you like to do it?" So this is yet another hat that I wear, is helping small agencies double and triple in size.
Yeah, fantastic. Good stuff. Jim, where else can people go to learn more about you and your work? What's kind of the main website that you'd like people to check out?
Targeting.com, as in narrowing your focus on the target market. Targeting.com, and on Twitter @Jim Sterne.
Do you have a lot of people reaching out to you to try and buy that domain from you?
People or bots? I don't know.
Oh, it's just someone or something.
Usually on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Jim, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you sharing some of your story and best practices with us today.
Michael, thank you so much for having me on. This has been great fun.